Buddy. Um, so what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to get your ClickFunnels pages set up on your domain. And what we're going to be doing is setting it up on a subdomain of your main school domain. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that and associate your funnel, your lead magnet funnel, with that particular subdomain. So what you're actually seeing here, and you're wondering why you're seeing this site, Route 9 Designs, this is actually a site that my wife was putting together. I'm helping her put together. She's looking to start an online store, online retail store. And the reason that I'm showing you this is because I'm going to actually use this to show you how to add your funnel pages onto this site. And I'm doing that to essentially reiterate the fact that we don't need to touch anything with your site. We don't need to do anything with it. We're really just bolting on the ClickFunnels pages to your existing site. Okay, so you don't need to have anybody else involved, your web design or anything like that. So obviously our funnel pages have nothing to do with this site, but as you'll see, I'm going to very easily attach the pages to this site. So the first thing that you need to do is go into your ClickFunnels account, go to your funnel, and the first thing we need to do is just name the pages. It's called the URL path. What is going to display in the URL to your website visitors? Right now, it might say something like opt-in for you. We want to change that. We want the URL to say what it is. So obviously we're working with the 19 questions guide. So you might want to name the page the school evaluation guide, or even use the full name, 19 questions to help you evaluate a private school for your child. That is perfectly fine to use for your page name. So to change that, I actually change it in two places. Just to be sure that it does work. So the first is right, if we go back, sorry, let me hit back. If you go to your funnel, you'll see here your URL. So it'll probably say opt in for you. I've already changed mine, but you click on this gear icon. And what we want to do is change the path here to 19 dash questions. So again, I just simplified it. You can name it whatever you want. You could simplify it as well and call it the school evaluation guide. You could use the entire document name as your path as well. So let's go back. And there's one other spot I like to change it as well. If you click this gear icon at the bottom, what you want to do is you also want to give it a name. Again, I would give it a very similar name to what your URL path is, because this is what is shown as the actual page name. So if you look at the top, you see all these tabs have names on them. That's your page name. Whatever you type in here is what's going to show on these tabs. Okay, so you're going to want to give it a name. And again, put the same path in here. So again, I made it simple, 19 dash questions. So as I'll show you soon, that's what's going to show up in the URL. So those are and then you just go down to the bottom and click update page. So those are the first things you need to do, is you need to name your page. Now, here's where the technical aspect comes in. You need to do something called setting up a record. So if you know what this is, I'm going to talk to you as if you know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, you need to go to the agency who set up your website, the tech person who has access to your website. If you had Blackbaud or Final Site set up your website, there's a good chance they have access to this. Essentially, your domain lives in what's called a registrar, and it's attached to a hosting account. And in your registrar, you have these things called records. So when a registrar, for example, the most common one that everybody knows is GoDaddy. And so maybe you use GoDaddy. I'm using Namecheap here. There's a lot of different ones out there, but they all have these records. It essentially tells tells you where the domain is pointing to, where it's going, so that it can display to the world essentially. So what we're trying to do here is set up a record where we're actually going to create the subdomain and then point that subdomain to ClickFunnels so that we can then add those pages to the subdomain. So here's what you need to do. First, you need to, there might be a lot of things in here. Again, if you have access to this, great. If you don't, give this to the person who does. Again, it's either the company who set it up, or if you have an internal tech person. So you want to go in your registrar, you want to go to DNS records. Your DNS records, they might be called zones, DNS zones, but essentially what you want to do is come here, and what we're going to do is add a record. So again, this might look different for you, but again, click add record. And the record that we're going to add, I actually already created. It is this one right here. It's called the CNAME record. So if you don't have this, which you likely will not yet, you want to create a CNAME record, and then under host, the name you give this here, that's what your subdomain name is. So just to clarify what a subdomain is, and I'm going to jump over to just an empty tab here. So you likely have right now schoolname.com. That's your schoolname.com. A subdomain is essentially a domain we're attaching to it. So it might say something like this: info.schoolname.com or go.schoolname.com. This is essentially a separate page that we're setting up that's going to attach to your website on what's called a subdomain. So this is the way that you need to do it with ClickFunnels. Okay, so it's very important that you follow these instructions. So give it a name. You could use info. That's pretty generic. You could use go. I would use something simple like that. So host, let's just say we're going to call it info, and then we need to point that subdomain to target.clickfunnels.com. So this is the important point here. We need to send the pages, we need to send the subdomain or to point it to our ClickFunnels account. Okay, so info is the subdomain, pointing it to target.clickfunnels.com. Under this TTL, if it doesn't say automatic, just make sure it says automatic, and I'll hit save changes. And essentially you are done. So this is the technical stuff. You are done right now. All right, so we've set up the subdomain here in our records, but now what we need to do now is associate the funnel with the subdomain. So what we're going to do is go back into your ClickFunnels account, hover over your icon on the right-hand side, the top right-hand side, and go to domains. And that'll bring you to a page that looks like this. And I just have a bunch of domains that I have had laying around, and I was testing some things out for this video. So what you want to do is, you're likely not going to see anything here. You want to go to add domain, and we have our own domain already. So just click on existing domain. And here's where you want to add that subdomain now. So for me, I went in, I created the info subdomain on that Route 9 Design site.com, and I'm going to hit add domain. Now, right here, this is telling you that you need to go into your records and add a CNAME info and point it to target.clickfunnels.com. We already did that. That was the step that I just took you through. So all you have to say is, I've done this step. And there you go. So you should get this happy guy right here telling you, good job, you did it. If it didn't work, or something didn't work, you didn't type in the names correctly, it'll say we couldn't verify your domain. So if it says we couldn't verify your domain, it could mean a couple things. One is, whenever you change a record here, sometimes it just takes a few minutes to it's called propagate. Sometimes it just takes a few minutes to refresh and get out there. So you might want to give it 5 minutes or so if it doesn't work right away. If you go past 5 minutes and it's still not working, you're not able to add that domain, it's saying you can't go any further. Check your spelling, make sure everything is set up properly, and just go back and follow these instructions again. So let's go back and On this page, though, assuming everything goes well, here's where it's going to ask you, select a funnel to associate with your custom domain. So this is where you're going to pick your funnel, and I have a couple of them set up, so you're likely just going to have the one there. Pick the one funnel and click associate funnel. So I've already done that. So what I'm going to do is, and that's really, you're done. So what that's going to look like is this. If we go now to, as you can see here, info.route9designs.com/19 questions. Here's our funnel attached to, whoops, I click something, so bear with me. Let me go back. So I attached the funnel to that route9designs.com site. So very similarly, you should have an info.yourschoolname.com/19 questions. And then we just to show, here's our form, click send me the guide, and we're on the thank you page, and everything is still attached to the Route 9 Designs site, or of course your site. So that's it for right now. We've set up a subdomain, we associated your funnel pages to your subdomain. So once you're done this, your funnel pages are now set up on your website. Now what we need to do is get it integrated with your email platform, whether that's a third-party email system or you're using Actionetics. So I'll see you in the next video where we're now going to start setting up your email autoresponder. Thanks, guys. See you in the next video.